We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity and the powerful video library. We've finished up phase one in the 30, uh, in the 30 different videos. All of these have been very powerful in my own life, and we're looking for more. And so you can go ahead and get those over to us, and uh, and we'd love to go ahead and kind of go into phase two. So what we'll be doing today is working on identity and then also connecting that into um, voices of integrity for passions. So it's all kind of blended together. So I forget, a few weeks back, a few months back, a couple months, 2, 3 months ago, the the concept of identity hit me, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden, these things started, all these dots started appearing. And today, this year is where I can't connect the dots, but I can do a picture. So, what does identity mean to all of you?
Who just describes you as like a person?
Okay. Anyone else?
Maybe what you stand for.
Okay. Good. Others?
What you and yourselves, what you and other people see in yourself.
Okay. Good. Good. Other thoughts on what is identity?
What you fight for?
Nice. Nice. Other thoughts?
Is it sometimes an excuse weak people use
Okay.
to not do something?
It's interesting. Like, this isn't, I'm not being true to myself. Okay. It's like, okay, yeah, interesting. Other thoughts on what is identity to you? Okay. Next question is, why is identity so important?
Makes up who you are.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Who you are makes up your identity.
Okay. So back and forth. Okay, good. Other thoughts? So I don't have a model yet on this. Well, I don't think I have a model. I was thinking in preparation for today, and I'm like, I wonder if the flawless thinking model connects into identity. And I didn't even know it. So our perception of our identity, does it go ahead and govern everything in life? Does it govern how we see and think and do things? Does it govern the past, the present, and the future? Do we
Very
get,
likely.
sorry, go ahead.
Said very likely.
That. So identity, so why is it so important? Well, if it governs everything in our life, it's like, whoa, that's pretty important. It's almost like it's the core of our mental health, how we see ourselves. So I'm not very good at this conversation yet. I'm not an expert in this conversation. Ben, you were going to share something?
It's how people view you. So when people watch and see you, it's how everyone views you, and I feel like that's probably pretty important.
So does that reveal your identity or does it reveal their identity?
Mostly you, unless they're watching you real hard, I guess.
So do you think people, view me as generally positive and in a positive way?
Depends who you're talking to.
Yeah, but a lot of people would not really view me probably in a positive light. So is that my identity? The people, like if there's 100 people out there that don't like me, that don't think I'm a good person, don't think I'm kind, I'm nice, think I'm narcissistic, think all of these things. If there's 100 people out there that are thinking that, or 200 people out there, is that my identity?
No, that's just what they think of you.
I wonder if people can't give you an identity, not necessarily your identity, but I wonder if people can't give you one.
So are they giving you their identity or your identity, or are you taking it? Can somebody give you something if you don't take it?
Not necessarily.
So why would somebody take somebody's identity, something like if somebody identifies you as something, why would you take that if that wasn't your identity?
Maybe after listening to people, you believe it yourself
Why?
because you value what other people think about you.
Why?
Because, I don't know, maybe because you want people to think good things of you.
Why?
Maybe because we're prideful and we like people to think good things of us.
So our identity is pride?
Maybe.
Interesting concept, right?
I
So
suppose so.
if we don't have an identity, if we don't have a strong identity, other people will give us one. We'll take that identity.
I've recently changed my opinion on some of this, what other people tell me. If I don't value them enough as a person, they can say what they want to and I just ignore it. Then I don't put value in their comment, even if it's true or false. I just rather not respond.
Is do you think that's a smart thing to do?
More than likely not, but it continues my day going and I don't worry about those people to take
I mean,
those
when you think about who's going to tell you the truth, who's going to tell you the truth?
probably those people, and then I think about it afterwards. If it is what it is, then it is what it is. And if it's true, and if it's true and I don't like it, then I can change myself. And if it's true and I don't care about it, then I won't change myself.
Right. And I think learning to think on spectrums in grays rather than black and white, like my grandfather said to me when I was 8 years old, he said, Mark, when somebody says something about you, to you, there's some amount of truth. It could be 1% or 99%. It's not up to them to decide. It's up to you. You decide what amount of truth it is, and then you decide what you're going to do with it. At 8 years old, he told me that once in my life. I've never heard it again ever from anybody else. He died when I was 9. I've never seen it on Google. I've never read it in a book. But that one statement from my grandfather when I was 8 helped me to understand something about myself and people that's very, very powerful. That now, 52 years later, that created something, a way of thinking inside of me that's that I think is maybe, I don't know, help to forge my identity or protect my identity. Any other thoughts or questions?
So you said you were going to make a model. What does that model consist of?
Not sure. I'm going to look to nature. Like right now, I just saw a bald eagle swoop down over the river by us, and it's snowing outside. There's flurries, and it's a beautiful winter day. So maybe it is. Maybe it's a fractal. A fractal is like a snowflake. It's a pattern. I don't know. So I'll probably go ahead, and all my journaling typically gets done at church on Sunday. And so my guess is I might create that model. There's the Johari window, which kind of comes to mind. So I take 60 years of everything, and I'm like, how do I put it into a model where it's easily understood, where people go, huh, that makes a lot of sense. The yin and yang model come to mind, like, and all the superheroes of all the kids, having kids and grandkids, and you see the villain in the movie, and often the villain in the movie for the kids is somebody who is a child. They had a gift and they were rejected, and so they said, I'm going to use this gift to either do something great or I'm going to do something terrible. So that kind of comes to mind. So I kind of let my mind just wander, go everywhere, and do it. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts?
Good life experiences also have a big impact on your identity.
I think it's different than what we think it is.
Okay.
What do you mean, Mark?
The different.
Yeah, like it's like we have something, like Dale said, before the podcast, he said, you jumped on, he said, how are you doing today? And I said, it depends. It depends how I look at things. When my wife, after my mom died, who's one of the closest people in the world to me, we were out on a date at a restaurant, and she said, Mark, are you sad that your mom died? I said, I don't know. She's like, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I don't know if I'm sad. She's like, how can you not know if you're sad? I said, well, I don't know if it'll serve me and people around me well. Then she started laughing, and she says, you're just weird. Why am I weird? Because I take a look at my feelings and I say, are my feelings going to serve me and the people around me well? And I said to her, well, I'm glad I'm not sad, because if you were laughing at a sad person whose mom just died, that would not be a nice person. Then she just started giggling even more.
Hey,
So,
Ma, how does it feel to have everything recorded in someone's mind that you say can and will be held against you pretty much your whole marriage?
can we be
I
will
get
be
used to it.
can be held, and for your benefit, for your understanding, for your attention. Yes. Other thoughts or questions?
I got my question for today.
Before we go there, just wrapping up this one here. There's one other question out there. So, Mark, yeah,
Yeah.
what do you think your identity is?
What do you think your identity is?
Thanks for asking. I always like when people are interested in me.
Mhm.
I think so. There's literally hundreds of thousands of hours that have been invested into these models. They're a creation. They're like artists. It was just a blank page, and then there was all of this that has all this meaning and insight and perspective. So it's a creation. It was designed to do something spectacular. It's my legacy. It will last beyond my life. And so I'm a creation. So I was created to do something amazing. I think everyone's created to do something amazing. Everyone. Everyone on the planet, all 8+ billion people. So my identity is, I think in my creator and who created me. And what did my creator create me to be? And what did my creator create me to become? And so if we don't have that kind of identity, then we're vulnerable to go ahead and be filled with the identity of other people. And so who's most likely to tell us the truth? It's people who are mad at us. It just is. People who are angry with us are more likely to tell us the truth as they see it than if they're not angry with us. And we often, when people say things that are hurtful, we often dismiss those things. Well, people around us, and then we go to validate, we go to our spouse or children or other people who like us. It's always interesting when somebody seeks validation. They want somebody else to say something about them, which seems to me that maybe their identity isn't all that strong. And so when we have an understanding that we were created literally in the image of God, and we were created to be something, become something that is supernatural, something that no other of the 8 billion+ people on the planet. I was created special, just like you were, just like you are. When we understand that, then we don't get filled with other people's identity. When somebody says something to us, it's not that I don't care what they say. I consider what everyone says. If somebody's saying something that's hurtful, I probably consider that even more mean and nasty. Like I had one on a podcast, a young gentleman, and he went ahead and said to me on the podcast, it was pretty cool. He said, if I was your son, I would have committed suicide too. I'm like, ooh, good one, that one. Wow. That was, wow. Like, wow. And so, like, I didn't get angry. I didn't get mad, didn't get hurt. I mean, I've considered that. And so when we consider things, but we don't have it, we don't have it have an over influence on us because people don't have an identity. So that's why you look at identity politics, and it's like you can always tell when somebody's over connected into a group. Because all you have to do is say something that's negative about the group, and the person will get angry and upset. Why? Because they've lost their identity. Their identity is no longer in who they were created to be. Their identity is in the group. So the first step in the process, and Dale has said it's fine for us to use him as an example, which is great. So you write down, like, what do I want others to think of me? And so Dale went ahead and said he wants people to think of him as being thoughtful, trustworthy, and positive. So there are certain behaviors that Dale needs to do to get people to think of him as thoughtful and trustworthy and positive. This is what's probably hit me the most. I know more than one husband where he feels that his wife and his kids and friends and other people don't respect him. But he doesn't see that his behavior he doesn't see how his behavior is controlling that situation. So people get angry and upset because, they don't think of me the way I want them to think of me. Well, change your behavior and people will think of you in a different way. Well, I want them to think of me in the way that I want them to think of me without me doing any work. Yeah, that's not how life works, my friend. It's just not. It's just not. Then part two, so connect the dots. So what actions do I need to take to get others to think of me the way I want them to think of me? So Dale did a good job on that. Part B is connect the dots. What am I doing now that may cause others to think of me differently that I would like them than what I would like them to think of me? So, okay, so I want them to think of me as being thoughtful and trustworthy and positive, okay, or whatever that is for you. So what am I doing now that's causing them to think something differently? So what must I do? 2A, to get people to think of me the way that, that I want them to think of me. Part 2B is what am I doing now that's causing people not to think this? And then part 3 is interesting. So what might we do to get people to think of us like we want them to think of us? It's not good or healthy for them to do. You'll notice the questions are getting a bit more complex. Like, what? And then here are my thoughts. So when we look at this here, we often don't think about this a lot. We don't think about the downsides of what we're, so well, to be thoughtful, other people want us to share things that they want to hear. Mark, you're so thoughtful. So maybe we don't tell people the truth, share what we see, which could help them. But out of selfishness, we don't, because we may not, want them to, like, we know if we're going to tell them the truth, they're not going to think of us as thoughtful. So they think we're a caring person. We're really not. We're selfish. So we're not being thoughtful at all. We're being thoughtless. We're being selfish, and we don't even know it. We're not consciously making a thought of that. We are so connected into getting other people to think of us a certain way that we're actually harming them, harming us, harming the relationship, and don't even know it. Trustworthy. So people often tell us things to release the pressure, the guilt on them. So most of the time, trustworthy. So Dale said, don't share things others shared with me in private. Okay. And that's trustworthy. And that's true. That's true. But the dark side, the downside, they feel bad, but we are trustworthy and not talking to others. So what if they were talking to others in violation? Like if you're a Christian, Matthew 18, you have an issue against somebody else, you're supposed to go to them. What if they didn't go to them? What if they're violating scripture? Huh. So we're actually not trustworthy. They think we're trustworthy. We think we're trustworthy, but we're not. All we are is selfish, self-centered, self-absorbed. We want them to be our friends, so we're going to tell them what they want to hear. That's not very trustworthy, and it's not being honest, and it's not seeking truth. What about positive? Oh, this is one of my favorite. So I see something that is flawed, less than the best in someone. But I know that if I say something, they will say that I'm a negative person. So I will withhold valuable, helpful things from them with a mutual agreement that we'll all live in delusion where we think of me as a positive person. And you don't have to face your stuff that I see, and I don't have to face the stuff. I'm a weak and selfless, selfish person. No, sir. I'm a positive person because that's what people think of me. So we don't really think about how we're allowing, and this, Alvin Miller went ahead and helped with Ben. Ben said something about, how do you go ahead and not be concerned about what people are thinking about you? Alvin didn't even, he didn't pause. He just reflex. And he said, when you do that, you allow people to control you. And so people know what we value. So we give them something, they give us something, but is any of it true? So if you thought this podcast was interesting, wait until you get to the next one. This stuff is just interesting. And so don't make a decision for other people, Like think of all the people in your life, or think of a few people in your life. And then think, am I going to share this podcast with them? And likely you won't. Why not? You'll make a decision for them. You won't give them an opportunity to make the decision. You'll say, oh, that person won't like this. That person, if I share them this, maybe they'll think poorly of me. So you're not even giving them a chance to be exposed to this identity and this understanding. Why are you controlling so much? Just intriguing. Always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.